Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 5 by Ahmad, Mint, and Nicole.
Lady Macbeth has just received a letter from her husband telling her about the prophecies he heard from the witches.
After reading this letter in the soliloquy during lines 12 to 27, Lady Macbeth discusses the attributes of Macbeth that may be an obstacle from him taking the throne.
She thinks of how she can help or convince him to do what he must do if he wants to be king.
This passage is from Act 1, Scene 5, lines 12 to 27. It is significant to the play because it introduces the role of Lady Macbeth. This scene specifically shows how she is clearly the more dominant and aggressive one in the couple, as she convinces and manipulates him.
Her speech foreshadows that she will forego any deed in order to make sure that Macbeth becomes king. Lady Macbeth influences Macbeth by putting the idea of murder into his head. Without her, it is unlikely that Macbeth would have committed the murder.
Glance thou art and good, and shalt be what thou art promised. Yet I do fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it. What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily, wouldst not play false, and yet wouldst wrongly win. Hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear.
Lady Macbeth starts by talking about the prophecy she has just read about in the letter from Macbeth. She knows he is the Thane of Glamis and Cawdor, and that the prophecy predicts that he will become king.
Even though Lady Macbeth clearly believes that her husband will soon be king, she is worried about how his personality will prevent him from doing what he must do to obtain the crown. She refers to him as too full of thy milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way, which means that he will not murder King Duncan because he is too nice, and murdering, she believes, is the only way to take the crown.
While she has some complaints, she does not completely criticize him. She mentions that he would be great as king and has the desire and ambition to drive him to be a great ruler. She believes that illness or bad actions should be a part of ambition, similar to when the witches in the beginning say that foul is fair.
In line 17, Lady Macbeth states that her husband deserves to be king and has the ability to be king, but would not kill to get power. In line 20, she repeats herself again and says that he must do it. He must kill Duncan if he wants the crown. She continues to insult him by saying that he is too frightened to do it.
Lady Macbeth continues by stating, "Come home so that I can criticize you and convince you to do it." She's referring to how she hopes to convince him, but also wishes how she could transfer her spirit and energy that wants to kill Duncan so that Macbeth will feel the same way as her.
She continues by saying, so that you will not be affected by anything that prevents you from taking the crown. In this, we see an example of Shakespeare's distinctive writing. Shakespeare uses a sort of symbol. Instead of saying the crown, he says the golden round, which flows nicely.
In these lines, we can see Lady Macbeth's dominant character, in contrast to her more easygoing husband. It is in this scene that she plots to make her husband do the deed.
Finally, at the end of the soliloquy, Lady Macbeth acknowledges the fate and magic of the witches that will ensure he becomes king no matter what. Even though she accepts this, she still wants to speed up this process by killing King Duncan.
Recently in England, there has been discussion over who should follow Queen Elizabeth as the monarch. According to the website Celebrity Dirty Laundry, probably an inaccurate source, Prince William and his wife were offered the crown instead of William's dad, Charles. Prince William denied the crown after it was offered, similar to Macbeth denying the witch's prophecy that he would be king.
Macbeth was on the edge of whether or not to kill Duncan until he was influenced by his wife in order to obtain the crown. According to the story, Prince William denied the crown of England, so his father will take the throne even though more people of England are leaning in favor of William.
Similar to Lady Macbeth, the article states that Kate Middleton is highly interested in becoming queen and ruling England beside her husband. Both of the wives try to influence their husbands, who are less willing to go after the crown, as they want to wait until they eventually get it by merit.
This scene is very significant because it is the first depiction we get of Lady Macbeth as the power-hungry wife driving the husband, and there are many representations of the same idea.
This painting is called Separation, painted by Edvard Munch. It depicts a man who seems to be struggling similar to Macbeth in the play, deciding whether he wants to kill to be king. In the background, a lady is walking, looking almost like a ghost. She symbolizes Lady Macbeth's direct influence over her husband by criticizing him, which begins during this speech.
Overall, the goal of Shakespeare during the soliloquy is clear, but the language that is a characteristic of his writing may make it difficult to understand. He uses figures of speech and many words not common today to represent his ideas. For example, he uses golden round to refer to the crown. His other phrase, what thou wouldst highly, thou wouldst holily, refers to what Macbeth values highly, he wants to get morally, even though that may not be the best option. When he says the milk of human kindness, he is representing the good attributes of Macbeth that will prevent him from committing this murderous act. When he says valor of my tongue, he's referring to Lady Macbeth's criticism.
Understanding these phrases and words used by Shakespeare will help you throughout the whole story. It is important to analyze the overall theme of a passage, but also look specifically at what words Shakespeare uses to describe the message. Thanks for watching!